Evening, folks. How are we getting on? Good, I hope. Um, ah, well, uh, people still have this cold that seems to be plaguing everybody. Everybody I seem to talk to has had this cold. I've had this for weeks. This thing, and I can still hear it in my voice. So hopefully, you guys are feeling a lot better, or feeling keeping well, keeping good. Now, tonight we're going to do something uh, of in the of a very small distillery. And what I mean by that is there is literally thousands of these little distilleries popping up. Bourbon and American whiskey is like whiskey all over the world. It's on the up and up and up. And you'll read this headline that says 2,600, 2,800 distilleries, whatever it is. And it makes it sound as if there's an awful lot of whiskey being made. And there is. However, the vast majority of these little distilleries are minuscule. They're tiny. Something like 95% of all whiskey made in the States is made in a handful of little distilleries, or a handful of little distilleries, handful of enormous distilleries, and the little distilleries, they make, you know, thousands of gallons as opposed to millions of gallons that the like of MGP and stuff makes. So all of these little distilleries are popping up, and they're all kind of trying to forge their own little place in the whole world. And so I was in a place the other day and picked up this. Now, Algodones. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, feel free to correct me. But it's a tiny little distillery, and I like the fact they sell them these little bottles, really, really reasonably priced. It's like $30 or something for this. This is in New Mexico, and this is a single barrel whiskey distilled by Algodones Distillery in Algodones, New Mexico, 44% ABV. And this is barrel number 6, bottle number 8. Now, it's a single barrel whiskey made with native blue Mexico corn aged in ex-bourbon barrels to showcase the unique flavours of the Southwest, and that's the Southwest of the US. This is always something that throws me when there's a screw top on a whiskey bottle these days, because yeah, you're always trying to pop it off like a cork. Put a little drop in there, give it a little swishy wishy. Now, if you go onto the website for Algodones Distillery, now certified New Mexico True, the little badge on there, certified New Mexico True. And again, this is one of those things that whiskey does so well, and that it has a sense of place. And lots of these little distilleries are very much of the place that they're from, and they're quite proud of that. They're quite it's almost like they're defining features. The whiskey in some ways plays a little bit of a secondary role to trying to be authentic, trying to use local products, age it in the place. Normally, the people that are there are uh, they already pre-own a business, or they run a farm, or it's something like that. And they name it after the town or the city, or the area that they're from, or some historical reference. And whiskey does that in a way that nothing else does. I don't care what you say. Rum, possibly. Vodka, not really. Wine, okay, yep, wine. But wine doesn't have the same sort of kudos. You get these chateaus, and the chateau, they almost they pride themselves on that their little section of that area. Like a Bordeaux is a Bordeaux, a Champagne is a Champagne. It's from that region, but whiskey does it in a different style, a different way, and whiskey takes a mechanical process. You have to distill it, which is as different than wines and beers. It just is. There's just something different with whiskey. There's lots of different explanations for this. um, but it does definitely have that. Now, the stills that they use here, and I was quite impressed by this, it sort of surprised me. The stills that they have, if you go on the website, they bought them from Spain, and they are alembic stills. Slightly different than the sort of pot stills that we would get back home. Now, there's a couple of people back home in Ireland who are using alembic stills. The Crawley distillery, for example, popped up. That's what they use. Um, Distillation was the fact that they're probably easier to get your hands on, probably a little bit cheaper in price. Good idea. Now, it's a nice colour to it, and obviously this is used roasted Luna blue corn, so blue moon corn, and they roast it, mash it, and ferment it on site and distill it with their alembic stills. Now, these doesn't tell you on the website in terms of volume, but it's going to be tiny. You're not. I don't know. Are they distilling a cask a week? I would be surprised if they're doing any more, if I'm honest. But they might be doing a little bit more, but they'll not be doing much. So we'll give it a wee swishy wishy wishy. First thing on the nose, it's very clean, and you would expect that from the corn. You're getting that cereal cornflake note. I mean, that's made with corn, and that travels on through with this. But it's very much cooked, and it's got a boiled sweet element to it. Like a hard candy sweet. They even head towards kind of barley sugary note, and there is quite an element of sweetness in this on the nose. I'm kind of preparing myself for it being a little bit OTT in the sweetness range. And there's also fresh cut grass there. Um, a sort of fresh vegetal note that is coming through quite well. Um, it's not the most balanced thing I've ever had in my life. It doesn't give there's no age statement or indication of age on this. Um, but I'm going to say it's probably not aged all that terribly long. Um, it's very, uh, it's very bourbon-esque in that regard. A little bit full on. Now the mouthfeel in this is actually quite nice, reasonably easygoing, yeah, reasonably um, delicate. However, when you swallow it, there is a burn there. There's a little, it's a little too harsh on the burn. Um, it's 44% ABV, so um, mouth feels quite good. But once you swallow it, it lightens very quick, and then the alcohol kind of burns. Taste wise, it's got a fair amount of taste to it, to be quite honest. It Again, quite sugary. Um, uh, it's coming through all the sugar, that sweetness, that element of sweetness arrives a bit too quick for me. Um, Kind of overpowers it a little bit. What I would say is, there, all of those sort of cereal notes work quite well. It actually tastes like something you don't be doing this, kids. But it kind of tastes something a little bit like you would have for breakfast, and it's probably reminding me of like honey nut cornflakes, which is not the worst thing in the world. In terms of a few spicy notes to it, it has those. Um, probably exaggerated a little bit by the fact that the alcohol seems to arrive a lot quicker than I would like either. It would. This would probably benefit from a little bit more aging. And my advice to the Algodones distillery: probably keep that in a barrel for a little longer, and take a little bit of the fire out of it, and it would probably allow the flavors to actually come out and be accentuated a bit more and pull forward. But in saying that, it's quite drinkable actually. This is when you're comparing these, you're wanting to compare all of these new distilleries and stuff with long established old time distilleries, ones that have years of experience and much aged stock and so on. And that's not really fair. Uh, so these guys are bringing out these products. I'm setting them forward, but you have to judge them by what you present it with. Probably a little bit more time in the cask would help this a lot. Um, it's quite easy to drink, even though it's got that sort of alcohol kick. Because it's New Mexico. This is Billy the Kid country. This is gun, guys shootouts and way out west kind of thing. you know, this is probably sweet and punchy. Probably what they were looking for. So maybe they don't want to leave it a little bit longer in the cask. I personally think it would benefit from it. Now, a little bit sort of straw element to it, and actually, um, back home you get biscuits called hobnobs. It's kind of got that. It's kind of got a biscuity note to it, and I don't mean biscuits over here, which are scones that they eat with gravy. Sausages, scone, biscuits and gravy. Nick to that. If I was going to have a breakfast, this would probably be more the one I would go for. No, no. What I'm talking about is biscuits that we would back in Ireland, and what we would dip them in tea. Yeah, so kind of hobnob esque, like biscuits. Uh, yeah, it's pleasant enough. It's one thing about it. This was $30. Okay, now people will say, "Oh, that's really expensive," because this bottle isn't very big. Hang on, I never even looked to see what the size the bottle was. 375 ml, so it's a half bottle. So yeah, this was only $30, so it's a reasonable try. Scaling it up, um, you're going to double it up. It's going to be over $60 for a bottle of this. That that makes it slightly different. I'm glad that it come in that size, if I'm honest. But it's getting quite nutty now that it's been out a little bit. And the nuts are sort of coming through a bit more there now too. Peanuts, essentially. And interestingly, now it's been out a little bit, that peanuts, there's a tiny little bit of salt there. So it's kind of tiny little bit of very lightly salted peanuts that comes through there. And that probably improves it as well. It's one of those ones, it's disjointed. It's a little bit here and a little bit there. It's a single barrel. It could probably done with a little bit more age to it. It could have done with a little bit more refinement, and it would be really nice. And once they've actually done the distillation and set it away, an extra 6 months or even 3 months would probably help this quite a lot. In terms of giving it a score, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Um, I would try this again in a year's time or a couple of years' time, because all of these guys are just getting their experience. Everybody has to start somewhere. And this isn't bad whiskey. It's not fabulous. I'm not going to tell people that it is. But what it is it's people beginning to experiment, finding their feet, trial and error, doing the thing, and giving their sense of place. Now, 6 months. in a cask extra, help it no end. Probably bring out a bit more flavours, kill a little bit of the alcohol. I wouldn't necessarily put it out any less than 44. I think that's probably whatever you think in terms of that. But it would change the structure of it and move it along. Again, 6.5. But good on you and keep going. And more power to your wee wheel. So listen, I'll catch you again soon, guys. And how do you ask how to pronounce this? Algodones Distillery. So another little one of the small distilleries finding their way in the world. Take care, guys, and I'll see you soon.